If you're building your business solely on Airbnb, then you're building your house on someone else's land. She got in contact with the local council and she sponsored bins, and there's a lot of angry people. Then the backlash was a bit mad.
They're angry, they're going into Facebook groups, they're trolling you. How did this affect you emotionally and mentally during that time? How do you get a direct booking website to convert? And what are the quirky direct booking strategies that deliver exceptional results? In today's episode, Mark Simpson from Boostly shares a bunch of ideas that you've probably never thought of. Also, stay tuned to find out just how close Mark came to exiting the short-term rental industry last year and why he was forced to quadruple charges for some of his most loyal customers. If you love the STR sector, this is an interview you cannot afford to miss. Mark Simpson, why do you think Airbnb would prefer that hosts don't hear what you've got to say?
Well, it's a good question. So, I mean, if you think about it, they want their whole ecosystem to be on Airbnb, just like what Booking.com would like all their ecosystem to be there, and Expedia the same. And when there's people like me who are talking about direct bookings, obviously it's educating hosts that they don't need to be just on their platform. So obviously they don't like when I say what we've got to say, but it's not just me. There's so many people talking about direct bookings. Obviously they don't like it. And, you know, Brian Chesky was on a podcast back end of 2023 and Kara Swisher asked him directly about direct bookings and if hosts on the platform should do direct bookings, and he dismissed it, as he should do, because obviously the more that direct bookings happened, the stock price of Airbnb would fall. So that's probably why.
Are you constantly amazed, as I am a little bit, that a lot of Airbnb hosts think that only Airbnb exists?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're filming this in England, in the northeast of England, and for the first 3 years of me doing Boostly, it was all predominantly UK based. Obviously we've got a Facebook group that international audiences can get involved in, but it wasn't really until I started traveling to America that I realized that how many hosts, especially over there, are so just dependent on one channel. It amazed me, really. I went to an event in 2022. It was at Nashville. It was in this saloon. It was 1,000 people venue. And I was very fortunate to go and speak. And I was one of the last speakers on there. And for the first 3 days of the event, I walked around and probably only 10% knew who I were. Nobody else did. And getting up on stage in front of 1,000 people and talking about what I was talking about and what I deemed to be very simple topics that I was mentioning. At the end of the talk, the amount of people who came up to me and they were shocked, surprised, and, you know, they didn't realize that you could do these things. It fascinated me. And it is worrying that is the case. But again, at the same time, for putting my Boostly hat on, it's been amazing for business. The amount of people who are, you know, being educated on being multi-platform direct bookings, and obviously we have a solution for that with what we do at Boostly. So yeah, it is crazy, it's bananas. But then it comes back to Airbnb, and I feel like their marketing is so good. I think their marketing team do not get as much credit as what they deserve, because they have obviously redefined short-term rentals. Nobody walks around saying, I'm staying in a Vrbo, I'm staying in a Booking.com. Everyone says I'm staying in an Airbnb. So number one, to build that brand up is phenomenal. But then the way that they convince new customers host on their platform that there is nothing else, they just need to do this, is again testament to them.
Yeah, it really is. It's an incredible brand with incredible user experience. But what is your message to people who are only on Airbnb?
Yeah, well, I wrote a whole book about it. The book Direct Playbook basically says that if you're building your business solely on Airbnb, then you're building your house on someone else's land. And, you know, when you're first getting started, I get it, right? Because when you are a scrappy business owner and you're just getting going, you've got all of these plates that you're trying to spin. And all of these plates are spinning. If one can just be marketing and sales, and you know that's covered with Airbnb, brilliant. But the problem is that as you get going, and because you're so reliant on that one platform, that one plate spinning with Airbnb, you get you get lazy, you get complacent. And then the problem is when that plate stops spinning and when the bookings don't come in anymore from Airbnb. And it could be for multiple of reasons. First and foremost, you could have one of bad reviews and you may drop off the first page of Airbnb. You could just simply stop being seen by people, or even worse, your listing could get suspended or cancelled, deleted. And that is when it's an issue, especially if the model that you're doing is so reliant on that income coming in. If you're doing the management model, you've got homeowners that are looking at you going, well, you're not bringing me in bookings. There's thousands of other managers that will kindly take over that property. If you're doing the rent to rent, sublease and arbitrage, whatever you want to call it, you've got bills that are coming out every month because you're giving money every month to have that property. And obviously if you own it, you are reliant on that because mortgages are coming out, etc. So it is so dangerous. And again, it just fascinates me how I can see so many people who are still to this day just on Airbnb.
I'm going to play the contrarian now. We all agree as hosts that direct bookings are brilliant. You want to avoid the commission. However, when it comes to the cost of building a website, the cost of marketing, the time it takes, can there be a false economy?
Well, I get it, because we are in an industry that is unlike any other, right? We've all been in other industries, and there's a PT out there now going, well, there isn't a website for me that I can just go and list my business on. It's guaranteed to get revenue. We are very fortunate in hospitality that you can start a business today, take a couple of pictures, put it online, and be pretty much guaranteed to get revenue coming in. That is great. But when I hear that argument, I'm just like, well, it's business. When I started Boostly and I was doing website design, there was no website that I could go and list my business on and be guaranteed. I had to drag people by the scruff of the neck to trust me. And that is sales, that's marketing, that's building a brand, that's every single day doing 30 minutes of new business. And over time, obviously, then we were bringing in revenue and all that good stuff. So again, when people say to me, well, direct bookings takes, credit card fees, you've got to have a website, you've got to do a bit of social media, you've got to, speak to your guests. And I'm just like, well, that's business. Whether you like it or not, that is business. And again, the caveat to all of this is there's going to be a couple of people who are watching this. Number one, they're going to be hobbyist hosts. Hobbyist hosts maybe has one property, isn't looking to grow their business. They've maybe got 3 or 4 other things that are taking up their time. They may have a job. They may just be, this is like right down the pecking order of where they want to be. And that's fine. That's sound. You do what you want to do. But there's other people who this is their career. This is what they want to be. This is what they want to do for the next 5-10 years. They want to grow this and potentially scale it and potentially sell it. This is for you. The advice that I give is to you.
That's one of the big challenges of this industry, isn't it? You've got people at the lower end of the scale with one property and they're not really bothered perhaps if it makes a profit. They might use it a few times a year, up to the people who are trying to scale madly. When you're trying to unite the industry as one and like all talk together with one voice, that makes it so hard, I think. Yeah,
no, 100%. And I think that, again, you're not going to really get the hobbyists attend events, maybe not even listen to this podcast, maybe not, check out YouTube channels and go into the Facebook groups and trying to grow and expand. So it does make it easier. And it comes back to the avatar. So for me, for Boostly, I realized instantly who my avatar is, who's my ideal person I want to be reaching out to me to work with Boostly. And over the years, I've just fine-tuned it and tweaked it even more so. So I know exactly who my messaging is for. If there's somebody who watches it and comments about, again, if I'm going to do direct bookings, I need to do X, Y, and Z, that's fine. You're not the one that I need to be speaking to. I want to speak to those that know about this, who are building a business, who have felt the pain of Airbnb and are wanting to grow.
So Boostly builds direct booking websites for short-term rental hosts, property managers, of course. What do the best performing direct booking websites all have in common?
The most simplest thing, and I've been speaking about this for a long time, and I learned this through Donald Miller. So he's got a really good book called StoryBrand. And part of StoryBrand is a technique that he shows you where he says, go into a coffee shop, open up your laptop, show a complete stranger your website and just go, what do I do? What do I sell? And how can I buy? And those three things are simple. He calls it the grunt test because the example he gave was a caveman, but that's an even better one with the coffee shop. And the most common mistake I see website owners try and do, or people try and make with their website, is they make the website look like the Mona Lisa of websites. They spend all of their money with flashy graphics, big videos, but there's no clear place as soon as you look at a website on where to buy. And it is as so simple as the menu bar at the top, the options that you give. The book now button needs to be a different color, different background behind it, and just stand out. I mean, red is an easy color. I've seen all different variations, but with that one simple fix and tweak, you can turn lookers into bookers just by showing people where to make a booking with you.
When it comes to maybe unusual direct booking strategies, can you give us 3 that are a bit weird but have proven to be really effective?
Well, obviously, if you're watching this or listening to this, there's, what I'm going to say may feel weird or alien to you, but it's one that is just tried and tested time and time again, and that's picking your phone up and documenting your journey. So speaking into a phone. Again, now to this point, so many people don't like doing it, but if you were to do it and you document your business journey, people love to follow a story. There's people that I'm thinking of right now from the world of Boostly who have done this. Somebody called Tracy Tullman, based out of Wales, started round about COVID times doing a daily live video of just her walking on the beach, a live video when she was walking the dogs in the morning and just talking about what was going on, yada, yada, yada. And she still does it to this day. And it's been a major source of bookings coming in. And also as well, she's built up a brand in her local area. She now has, I think still to this day, a radio show because of that, because people knew as the person who does the live videos on the beach. And obviously when you start doing that, they attach the business to it. They spread the word and people are going, oh, you're traveling to here, you should need to check out Tracy and the brand and da-da-da. So that's number one, is picking up the phone, documenting your business, posting it online. Another mad one is, there's a lady called Plaxi, and she was based down near Redhill in Surrey, and her target market was contractors, or it was also families that were relocating back to the UK after living abroad, because that's what she was. She was living in Hong Kong, traveled all over the world with a partner, came back to the UK with a small family, and so she got properties that were catered for them. Particularly for the contractors, she knew where they were hanging out, you know what I mean? And so they were all in the town centre. So what she did is she got in contact with the local council and she sponsored bins. So on the bins, in this radius of say 5 miles, was her business, her branding, and it was speaking to obviously to the target market that she was wanting to be put in front of. And you may be thinking, well, if I was to put bins in my area, what guest or who is a guest going to see that? But if you put the branding and the messaging right, those bins basically provided so much bookings and inquiries, because there was contractors who were staying in maybe a travel lodge who didn't really like having that were in a hotel. They wanted a kitchen. They, the company that was sending those contractors, the bills were extraordinary because they were going to the bar, going to the pub every night, putting it all on the business. So she could offer accommodation that slept 4 or 5 people, private parking, kitchen, fantastic. And again, that messaging was great because they could see that, read it, and called it. And the final one, and this is one that I love, and obviously you're doing it with Host Planet, is the branding on the t-shirt. So many people I know that have branded laundry bags, branded hoodies, and just by wearing a branded hoodie. There was a family down south in the UK who were doing the school run, and because it was a comfy hoodie, worn it all the time, branding on the back, and she had people booking on the school run because they were like friends were coming in from out of town. They had a glamping business and they booked to stay there. Now, again, because they simply put the messaging and the branding out there, people knew what their business were. And I always feel like sometimes it's as simple as a branded bag. Some people do the car wrap, t-shirt, hoodie, hat, mugs, you name it. It works.
I love the bins idea there, going to where your customers are. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, Dale Smith as well, host and stay. Whenever I go to Scarborough, so he's got target areas around the UK where his business is, and it's expanding all the time. But Scarborough was one of his main starter off areas, and I grew up in Scarborough. And he sponsored the roundabouts. I've talked about this on stage. I've talked about it so many times, but it's genius because I still see it now to this day. When I'm on the roundabout, I see host and stay, and obviously he's grown his market and his branding. He's sponsoring football teams and football shirts now, but I always think about the roundabouts idea as well as another fantastic one.
You know, when you were talking through those three, I was thinking of that because he said that to me on a podcast, and often when I drive round a roundabout, I think, should I sponsor this for me? Should I put my rentals on there? Because people do look at this stuff. It's amazing. But yeah, billboarding your properties, it works. Going to kind of what's going on in the industry this year, what's your take on the STR world in 2025? What are the challenges and opportunities that we're facing this year?
Depending on where you are in the world, obviously this is going to be tuned in all over, but regulation is obviously still a big one. It seems that every week, every month, there's a new city or a new country that is cracked down on what's called over-tourism. Regulation is going to happen whether we like it or not. I think all we ask for is fair regulation. And I feel like what's really important now for business owners, again, who are wanting to make a career out of this, you've got to be in the room on these conversations. So look at where your local Chamber of Commerce is, look to see who your local MP is. You've got to try and get in their ear in some way, shape or form. And it is literally education, because they are coming at it from what they learn from the media. And obviously it gets painted in such a bad light. Everybody feels like all of this is just Airbnb, people get rich quick, taking money and taking property away from people who want to rent, all the nonsense that we have heard. So that's one thing that you need to do if you are struggling potentially with this, is get in the room, get amongst the conversation. It will mean, boring council meetings and stuff, but you've got to get part of it if you are worried about it. Opportunities, I mean, there are tons. AI is obviously playing a huge part. It's a big keyword, buzzword that you've heard so many times, but AI is saving time for so many business owners now. And I feel like it always falls into three camps. Number one, you're right down the rabbit hole, like I am. You're excited, you're using it on a day-to-day basis. You've got the other end of the spectrum where you are burying your head in the sand, going, nah, not for me, never going to get involved with it. And you've got those in the middle that are a little bit wary. You maybe dabbled a little bit. You've asked ChatGPT a question and gone, nope, don't like this. But I feel like whether we like it or not, at the moment, AI is impacting geeks and business owners, right? And those two is where it's at the moment. Very soon, when Alexas get an upgrade, our phones get an upgrade, and these AI robots are built into our everyday devices, that is when the general public are going to start to get more savvy to it as well. And whether we like it or not, there will be people who will go onto their phone, their computer, whatever, and they'll have an AI that will be their trip planner AI. And that'll just be built into our phones or our devices sooner rather than later. And that has amazing opportunities. No one really knows what those opportunities mean, but I feel like at the moment, the best way to describe how it's helping business owners is saving time. And I feel like those that are utilizing it can create better copy, send better emails, do better posts. And so that is another big opportunity. And obviously coming back to hosts, there are tools out there now that are cutting down the response time to guests. So guests ask a question. It's always in the past relied on you manually replying, a team member manually replying, or hoping that Hospitable's keywords kick in at the right time and they send the correct reply back. There are tools now that are so available that are really helping with that. So the easiest thing any host can do now is get involved with one of those tools, whether it's Hospitable, who are doing it within their own tech, or there's third-party ones like Host Buddy, Host AI, Bestie, loads of them. Get involved with one of them because they are really helping with so many things. And the response time to guests impacts your Airbnb search ranking as well. So definitely worthwhile getting involved with that.
Yeah, 100%. Like you, business owner, I'm using it every single day. And I read a great article that you put on LinkedIn actually recently, and you mentioned a tool called Replete. And I thought, well, that's interesting because it builds apps And I went on and tapped in kind of what I wanted, and I could not believe what it came up with.
Yeah, I don't know how to code. I haven't got a clue about it. I always think about the Matrix when I look at those numbers and stuff and all that sort of jazz. But Replit is a tool that you put in a prompt, give it an overview of kind of what you're after, and it will turn it into an app. And there's so many examples of it, and it's only getting more smarter, more well known, and it's going to get better and better to a point where, you know, my 12-year-old could probably go onto it in a couple of weeks' time or a couple of months' time and make his own app, which will be, you know, insane. That the Gen Alpha is going to be way ahead of where we're at now.
I'm going to change tack a little bit now and talk a bit about your business and Boostly and what you've been through really over the last year, 18 months. You've been really honest, I think, as you always are, across your social media channels about what's happening and the challenges that you've been facing. So what did happen and how have you been dealing with it?
So the last 18 months, 12 months have been probably the craziest 12 months compared to the other 9 years of Boostly beforehand. And yeah, I do this thing every weekend where I put a post out where I document the week that's just been. I started it at the start of last year, 2024, because I had this weird feeling that 2024 was going to be a big year. I couldn't put my finger on what, but I just felt like a lot was going to happen, and it turned out it did. And it pretty much started a year ago, where for the first time in ever, I had an email drop in my inbox from a company that was looking to potentially acquire Boostly. And this is like, it was a real compliment, because it means that you're doing something right, but at the same time, it was scary as hell because it's never happened. Didn't know anything about mergers and acquisitions. I always thought it was for like the bigger companies, not, you know, some fellow has figured out how to design websites for people. So that started. And that first inquiry literally landed the day that I was flying to Nashville to speak at STR Wealth. I left it for my MD to deal with, and I was just getting like little tidbits as I was speaking. So my head was turned then. I remember being at Manchester Airport, and I downloaded before the plane took off How to Sell Your Business. Built to Sell by John Warlow. He's released 3 books, and I literally downloaded them all, listened to them on the plane over, and got like a pretty decent education along the way. But from February to, I would say, October, it just started. So it was like waiting for a bus, nothing for 9 years, and then all of a sudden every bus arrives at once. Everybody wants to find out a little bit more about Boostly, and it's always the same. Email drops in saying, we want to find out more, we want to have a conversation about potentially acquiring. And I'd be lying if I said that my head wasn't turned, and I documented this. And not only did it turn my head at that, I took my eye off the ball on the core part of Boostly, but I was really lucky at that point that I had an MD and a COO, so people that were running the day-to-day. But then at the same time, we had to make changes with what we were doing. We were using this server, and this server was not the best. We had 2,000 websites with this one server company. And at some point last year, I think it was about May or April, there was a huge malware attack on every single WordPress website. And we had about 100 of our 2,000 were affected. And normally a server should come in and go, oh yeah, no worries, we'll help you with that. They didn't. They just said, oh, it's your problem. So we dealt with it, but then we realized we couldn't be with this company anymore. And we switched to another one, which was called Kinsta. Fantastic company. They do, 40 checks of each website every day. Every single one's its own, without getting too geeky. Dedicated server, so it's protected, loads quick, amazing. But we had to move 2,000 websites from one server to the other. And it's not a simple case of just exporting, importing, uploading. I wish it was. We had to move each one individually. And obviously, because 100 of our sites had that malware issue where there was a virus trying to get in, Kinsta obviously wouldn't take on board all websites without a thorough check. So it started in March and it only ended in October. So that's half of our team doing that. And we had a team of about 60, but still it needed a lot of work. And obviously with that, moving from one server to another, we had to put our prices up. I'm very honest and very transparent with our customers, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And I explain the reasons why that we had to put our prices up. And for some people, and again, I've mentioned this on a number of podcasts, the business owners, when they first get going, you never truly price yourself right. And I still think people don't price themselves right. And growing up in the North, growing up in Yorkshire, we have this mindset and mentality that, we don't spend money. And it's been at my fault. I've had that in the back end that when I charge, I always charge too low. And I know I do, and it's my fault. So I've had people that were with us for years that were maybe either paying a £5 a month or 20 a month. And then all of a sudden, I just like, right, everybody has to move. And I want to put everybody on the same price. It keeps everything easy, moving straightforward. It went up to 97. For some people, it was a little jump. For some people, it was a big jump. And I tried my best to communicate why we had to do it. Obviously, some people accepted it. Some people didn't accept it. And when we had 2,000 customers, I was like, right, I knew we could lose half, right? Which is mad to think this, but you could lose half of your business, but you'd be 3 times more profitable and be able to cover all of the costs. And that's what happened. But obviously, we lost 1,000 people. Now, if I had 10 customers, and if we say lost 5, and that was 50% of our customers, then the online sort of thing wouldn't have been as big. You're just losing 5 people. When you lose 1,000, and there's a lot of angry people, then the backlash was a bit mad. There's loads of things that went on, and things that are now very happy to say that it's all calmed down and we've all gone our separate ways. But from like May until August, it was pretty intense online. So we're dealing with the servers, price rise, people still inquiring about Boostly at this stage. Got to the end of July, and there was one company that just sort of went above and beyond. They put down an offer. We signed an LOI. This was like the 31st of July, and I remember this date because on the 1st of August, me and the family were jumping in a camper van to drive around Europe for a month. We've been planning it for years. We've been planning to do this. And so I said, listen, I'm not going to be here for the whole of August. Please don't try and get in touch with me. So we both agreed that we'd leave it until like the 1st of September to get going. And we put a date that it needed to be completed by the end of October. Because normally an acquisition, the DD is normally about 45 days. And so we got back from the camping, from being around Europe, all of that stuff. Things have calmed down online, which is great. We get into September and we start doing the DD. And it is at this point of listening to those books again by John Warlow, listening to pretty much, while I was driving around Europe, had my headphones in, listening to every podcast he's ever done, I started to realize that the deal that was put forward wasn't the best. But I was still going to go ahead with it because I was so far down that road. It was a good deal. It was obviously I can't say numbers and stuff, but it was an all right thing. And then it got to September, and then the Labour government decided that they were going to bring this new budget in, and they were going to hike up capital gains tax. And I've never had to worry about capital gains tax in my life ever. And then obviously for the first time, I was going to be caught up in all of this. And so this deal, this initial payout of this deal that was heavy on the earnout, started to look not a very good deal at all, even worse deal. Because once you take into account solicit fees and all of that, I was joking to my wife, by the time that we get our money from this payout, I'll be able to afford a packet of crisps and a Big Mac meal from Mackey's. It's not going to be like the big thing that you think about when you sell your business. But I was still determined to go ahead with it because I thought, right, well, this company that's in here, we can utilize all of their resources. It will take the brand even further. I'll be able to open up doors I never would before. And then it just didn't perspire that way. There's a few things that really get under my bonnet, and it's communication. I've got these like core values, and if something doesn't fit right, if my spidey sense is kicking off, then I can instantly go out of favor in something. And there was just something that happened between September and the middle of October, and I obviously can't go into, but they're just things the spidey sense was tingling. And so, middle of October, I said, no, thank you. I don't want this deal to go ahead. The Labour thing and all of these things, it just doesn't make it right. And then, 12th of October, I remember landing back in the UK. I was just speaking at an event in Dubai, got back. And then I spoke to my head of finance and she was like, right, it's time for plan B. Because we had to have a plan B if the deal didn't go ahead. And she was like, you're not going to like this, but we have to do this, and this. We're going to have to reduce the team by this amount. You've got 6 weeks to save Boostly because we're spending so much money. And so I was like, oh, shit. So, unfortunately, had to get rid of a lot of people, had to, again, protect the company, make sure that everybody knew about this, make sure we cut all of our outgoings, had 6 weeks to turn it around, but by hook or by crook, we did it. We got the servers all sorted. Because every single week we were with this other server company, we had to pay them money. So we were paying for 2 servers at once. And it's like, when you've got one server, it's what, $20, $30 a month. When you've got 2,000 or 1,000, you were talking 5 figures every month that were going out from both companies. And so we rammed down on that. We got sorted with that, fixed a lot of outgoings, had to let go of a lot of good people, but we just basically did what we needed to do to get by. And it's weird. End of November, things were looking mint. End of October, things were looking great. End of November, December, January, and now we're here in March, and it's bizarre how it's just changed around. But we've never been as profitable as what we are now. We've got, I believe, the best group of people that we've ever been working with the team behind the scenes. The Trustpilot reviews, thankfully, are back to normal. Everybody's happy. I get on. One of the things I implemented when I came back into the business back in October, I had to let the MD go. I had to let the COO go. So I came back into the business, and one thing I started doing was every single day, Monday to Friday, from 9 to 11 a.m., as soon as I got the school run done, we sat on a 2-hour Zoom call with everybody in the team. The majority of the team are in the Philippines and Pakistan. And I was like, right, this is today's problem. Let's fix it. And we just did that every single day. And over time, the problems got less and less and less. And now it is really smooth now, and it's really good. But yeah, it was a mad year. Wasn't the year I maybe thought of when I started doing these weekly posts. And some weeks I didn't want to put a post out at all. But the maddest thing has been the reaction. So when I go to events, or if I'm chatting to someone on Zoom, or someone just sends me a WhatsApp, it's like, that's exactly what I'm going through. Or I've been doing something similar. And I must have spoken to, 10 to 20 other business owners who have just said the same thing. And to get the reaction has been great. And I'm keeping doing it this year. And so hopefully this year is a bit more calmer. But now I'm at the point where I still get people emailing me about wanting to acquire Boostly. They just go straight in the bin. I'm done with it. I don't want to be part of it. It's the most stressful thing that I've ever had to do with DDs. And, you've got 1 minute where you've got people telling you the best thing since sliced bread. And then in the next conversation, they are absolutely ripping your whole business model apart. And so I'm just like, I'm done with that. I just want a nice, calm year this year.
How close were you to selling?
Oh, weeks. Literally weeks. There would have been a day if they'd have sent in the final offer, and I can't put the date on it, but I probably just signed it there and then, because I was just so run down. And it's like, if you're buying a company, you want to make sure that everything is right. You're not going to buy a broken car. You got to make sure that it's serviced, MOT'd, and to the point. And we had never had a data center before. We had never done any proper SOPs. We had very fluffy SOPs, but to the point where somebody could understand it, not to buy it and take it over and stuff. So we had to do all of that in such a short space of time. And I was so mentally run down with that while running the business, while battling these Trustpilot trolls, while all of these things was going on. If I'd have sent it on the right day, maybe in September, say, I probably would have accepted it. But yeah, it was close. It was very close. I'm so glad I didn't. I'm so glad that spidey sense, whatever it was, divine intervention, people watching over me from another wherever, it was just that spidey sense just kicked in. And I just woke up one morning, I was in Dubai, about to go and speak at this event. And I really didn't want to go to Dubai because the week before there was loads of family stuff going on, personal things happening. And the last thing I wanted to do on that Friday was get on a plane and fly to Dubai. But I just hate letting down people. I would have hated to have let down Damien and the team at scale. And I got on that plane to go. And it was the best thing that I did, because that week it was just me by myself in this apartment because the family were meant to come with me. So I had this whole apartment to myself. And it was good just having that quiet time just to think and reflect. And at one point, obviously, Spidey sense kicked in and just said, "No, don't do it." And that was literally it.
You've built up 2,000 customers, like you say. 1,000 of them have left. They're angry. They're going into Facebook groups. They're trolling you, basically. They're putting the 1-star reviews on Trustpilot. Yeah. How did this affect you emotionally and mentally during that time?
So one thing I would say about being in hospitality for so long, like I was born into it, and then I've been in full time since 2011, is that you learn to block out reviews and all that sort of stuff. Again, I'm used to it. Like when you put your heart and soul into something and you live by reviews, like we live by reviews in this industry. And when I was in it properly, it was like 2014, 2015, and that's when TripAdvisor was huge. And you, as much as you rely on reviews, you just learn to just block it out. And I've always said, if out of every 10 reviews or 10 things that have been said, if it's 9 good things and 1 bad thing, just ignore that 1 thing, just use it as a one-off. But out of 10 things, if 7 of them or 8 of them are saying the same thing, then obviously you have to fix it. And obviously I took the feedback, I looked at what people were saying, and if there's so many things talking about this one thing, then obviously we tried to fix it as best we could do. It was more my wife that I worried about, and the team, like Laura and the people and the MD and the COO, and we had customer success team. They were getting like the big brunt of it, and Laura, like she had to leave all the Facebook groups that she was part of because she didn't like to see it, and obviously you don't like to see that. But I've definitely got my tough skin now after being in this game for so long. But yeah, it's mad. You just get on with it.
What does the future hold now for Boostly?
Not going to sell, that's for sure. So, now I'm just looking at building a really impactful business that doesn't get in the way of family time. I've said this number of times that I started Boostly so I can spend as much time as I can with Laura and the kids, and that is not going to change. We're going to travel as much as we have been traveling. We're going down to South Africa in July to speak at the Scale South Africa, and my whole family's coming with. Laura was born in Johannesburg. We've never been back. I've never seen it. Kids have never seen it, so that's really cool. Going back to Dubai in October to speak at Scale Dubai, and yeah, we're launching this new product that will be really cool called Boostly Connect. That's going to be really interesting to see how that goes down. And yeah, just keeping life as calm as possible. No more major server moves, no more buyouts or anything like that.
I love it. All right, we've got a few questions to finish then. I asked you these before, but let's update them for 2025. So your favourite brand in the STR space this year?
I really like what Siddhi is trying to do at yhangry. I feel like that is fascinating to see how it takes off. Obviously, we both know her. We both worked with her and the brand, and what it's fascinating to see what they can achieve and how they're going to go about it and how they crack America. That's interesting. I always love seeing what Mount's doing, Maddie at Mount. I feel like Airbnb, you're about to hear it in a couple of weeks, is going to go all in on experiences again. And I feel like the more that hosts realize when a guest comes and stays at your place, it's not about your place. It is about the overriding experience and what they do while they're staying with you, whether it's business, leisure, or whatever. And I feel like the experiences thing is going to be the big takeaway of 2025. So obviously yhangry provide private chefs, Mount do that whole user experience, and obviously whatever Airbnb decide to do with experiences. I feel like that to me is really interesting. And the cool thing is not any of that is to do with AI. So which is awesome to see that there's not a new company, but it's like everything's AI centric. So that I would say them too.
Nice, great shout outs there. An individual in the STR space you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, Jodie Odlin from Hospitable House. There's so many people. Obviously, we're just coming a couple of days off the back of Shorty nominations, and everybody, obviously, you get shout-outs and you hear of new things, but I really, really like what Jodie has done since day one of Hospitable Hosts. It started off as just a book idea, to now she runs a publishing company, to now there's an event happening in Denver, Colorado, and there's all these things that happen on the back of it. And there's loads of stuff that Jodie's been through over these last 3 or 4 years, but she has always stuck with it. And just a real nice person as well.
Finally then, your number one lesson learned from the last year?
Don't fall for the shiny object syndrome. It's so easy to do. Getting that email and getting those emails across like your inbox about potentially wanting to acquire. It's very easy, even though I am very centered of like seeing the outcome before it's happened, so to speak, and taking my eye off the ball, and definitely taking my eye off the ball, off the profit and loss and the P&Ls and stuff. That is a big lesson. So just keep on track. Don't try and be something you're not. Don't like look at what other people are doing and thinking, I should be doing that. Just stay on track. Don't fall for that shiny object syndrome, I would say.
Mark, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for being the first guest on our rebranded Host Planet podcast.
Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with the one and only Mark Simpson. Make sure you give those direct booking strategies a try, even the one advertising on the bins. If you're looking for more free education, head to hostplanet.club, the fastest growing multimedia platform in the short-term rentals industry. We're proud to help hosts and property managers supercharge their businesses by sharing a wealth of content. Head online to sign up for our newsletter, download our suite of ebooks, and listen to our podcast series. Until next time, happy hosting.